Welcome to the creative void. You want to make things, but before you do, you must visit this realm. It's a blank canvas that exists in the social dimension. If you want to share any ideas, you must export imagination from your fantasy-fed brain to a tangible or shareable reality. The method can be music, or paint, or words, or puppetry, but the canvas will be blank unless you make a humble mark. Hi, I want you to learn a lost art with me. We can share thoughts and feelings with each other using this resurrected language. 3D computer animation. Even if you don't know how to draw a stick figure, I can still show you that making complex and original objects in 3 dimensions is not only possible, but may even be easy for you. And I'm going to show you how to do it using free stuff. This might be a gateway for you to start sharing those stories you keep vaulted up in your noggin. The medium is 3D CG, and the mode is splines and patches. I'm going to show you the baby steps of this lost art, and at the end of the video, I'm going to invite you to share your CGI creations in a creative jam. Many of you have requested I share more about my process with Animation Master, that obscure and easy-to-use legacy CGI stuff. As a refresher, the type of work I do falls under a variety of labels. Silicon Dreams, Fong, Y2K, hands-on, non-AI workflow, and I will go into detail on how you can do that too. Animation Master is a spline-only CGI environment. Think about Adobe Flash with those infinitely scalable curvy shapes and tweenable animations, except in 3 dimensions. And its approach, using curves, is slightly unique among its peers. Many will assume that spline modeling is referring to NURB workflows, NURBS, but spline patching is its own thing. There is one other program that makes use of Animation Master style objects, and I will be showing how to use both these programs as the modeling method is almost identical. hamaPatch is a free program that makes spline and patch objects that can be rendered in POV-Ray. POV-Ray is a legacy open source renderer that makes beautiful and mathematically satisfying renders. hamaPatch is free, so you can learn the modeling aspect of my workflow without spending any money. Get hamaPatch and POV-Ray from the links below and follow along as we do the ABCs of spline patch modeling. I've made shortcut keys that are used in Animation Master, so learning this program will teach you a lot of the same workflow. When I was a child, someone called me 4 Eyes, and every time I open up a new 3D software and I see 4 viewports, I feel my childhood trauma, and I immediately go and I expand one of these 4 viewpoints. And now we have a single canvas to work with, as Bob Ross intended. And we're going to learn the fundamentals of spline patching, and we're going to do it slow, and we're going to build our models brick by brick. So we're going to start with the most simple shape we can do, a single spline, by pressing A, and then clicking on the canvas and dragging out our first spline. Now, if we press the letter A again, we can add another spline anywhere on the canvas. So this is 2 splines. Now we can click one of the control points on the spline and move over to another control point. And while you're holding it down, right click. Now you've made a spline connected by a curve control point. So we made 2 splines into 1 spline. Now we're going to hit A again, right click and attach. So if we get kind of close here, click and drag out another control point, right click to attach. We've made a single spline ring with 4 control points. Now we're going to go up to the top where it says show, and we're going to go down to surface and make sure that's check marked. We're also going to go over to light, and we're going to go enable light for preview, because the next thing we're going to do is add some surfaces to our first object in hamaPatch. Drag out another spline by pressing A, and then add another control point. So we've got a spline with 3 control points, and now we're going to reach up, attach it to the top of our spline ring, and then attach it to the bottom of the spline ring. And now what we have is 2 patches that are automatically created When two splines are attached and sectioned off, hamaPatch and Animation Master will start making patches automatically for you. Now we're going to do that one more time. Drag out a new spline, and we're going to attach it this time to the left of the spline ring, the center control point, and the right of the spline ring. Now we have 3 splines attached in this pattern with 4 patches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to press F4 to push it into perspective view, and I'm going to hit the letter T to turn the camera, and now we're going to move it up a convex or concave object. T to rotate the camera to get a look at that. And this is the magic of working with splines for 3D objects. You already made a curvy organic shape, and these are the basic objects with spline and patch. Switch the camera view to F2, drag out 2 splines. Here's one spline, and now we're going to drag out another one. I'm going to connect it to the first spline, and now I'm going to drag out one more. We've made a crossroad. Or I'm going to hit F4 for perspective, and then I'm going to hit the letter T to turn the camera. So we're going to look up into our convex shape, press the letter W to grab these control points, and we're going to add them one at a time, just like we did the first time, to the edge of the ring. And you might notice we have kind of an ellipsoid starting to form. Letter T to turn the camera. Now I'm going to go to F2 for a forward facing view. Hit W, and now I'm going to hit F3. Look at it from the side. And that's the simplest primitive we can do. At the top we have a tab called Patch, and grab this one that says Set Curve Weight. We're going to go up to Select, and we're going to say Select All, which selects all our control points. And when we click and drag on the object, we've just rounded out the object a little more by setting the curve weight. Now if we intensify that curve weight, now we've turned hamaPatch into Minecraft. If we turn it down, D8, that's cool, Yo-Patchy, but can I make a 3D character now? I'm going to say if you can make a sphere in 3D, you can make a lot of objects. One of the oldest tricks in the book to build your scene using primitive shapes. Speaking of hamaPatch POV-Ray, we have Jenna Obukov's art here, and you can see the Kraken below is made of just a bunch of spheres. You don't even have to look very far past the late 90s to see some really interesting stuff out there rendered in POV-Ray. And this animation was made for the Internet Ray Tracing competition, where people submitted their stills and animations, and a lot of it was rendered in POV-Ray. So I hope the takeaway from this video is that you'll look at funny little characters like this, probably rendered in POV-Ray, and you'll be like, I can do this. I can make little bunny rabbits and pufferfish. Here we are in hamaPatch again, and well, let's make some slightly more complicated bunnies and different little creatures. How we can do that is by pressing the A key. We're going to add a silhouette. So I'm going to keep pressing the letter A, which is going to represent a kind of silhouette of a doll shape. So we've got a head, a shoulder. This is where the leg will be. And now I'm going to group select by pressing G and then dragging a box. And up here in the top tab that says Patch, I'm going to scoot over to the lathe button and I'm going to press it. And now we have a lathed spline. And what I need is some arms. So there's one way we can do that. I'm going to press W, which will allow me to move. You know, that could be like a penguin's arm, but we want it to be more articulated than that. So I'm going to grab this tool up here called Knife. And there's lots of ways we could do this, but I'm going to click and drag a slice around the arm. And now rotate the camera by pressing F4 to make it perspective view and pressing T to turn the camera. And you can see the 4 control points that I'm going to connect together. So I'm pressing A, and then I'm going to take the ring one control point at a time and connect it in a circle. If I grab that control point, a little more like an arm shape. And if I do the same thing, grabbing the knife tool from the toolbar, slicing down, and now I'm going to turn the camera to the side, F4, letter T, make a ring, add the points together. all the way around. Grab that last control point with the W key. There we go. Now we have a problem. Those patches around the arm are made out of 5 control points, which hamaPatch and Animation Master need permission to use 5-point patches. So what I'll do is I'll select the whole object with the G key, grab all the control points, and then over here to the right, there's this options for my object. And I'm gonna enable 5-point patches in my options. And then up at the top where it says model, drop down to permit 5-point patch. And then I'll give it clearance for all the selected control points, and it'll find them and then fill them in. 5-point patches, you can't do that in Maya or Rhino. It's only an Animation Master thing. Enter to release all those control points. You may have noticed at the top and bottom of this object that the control points aren't connected. I'm going to hit Tab to select where that control point intersects with the beginning of a spline path. And so now I've selected this spline path right here. I'm going to hit K, which is stands for cutting in Animation Master. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to hit Tab again, and I'm going to hit K to cut there too. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to select this control point, and I'm going to cut the ring. Hit Tab, I'm going to cut, and I'm going to turn the camera, and you can see that I've completely removed the spline going in a ring. I'm going to connect these control points together. I've put all the control points together at the top. Okay, you can see I've sealed up the bottom here. I'm going to move the camera to forward view with F2. I'm going to grab the knife. I'm going to slice a ring. I'm going to try to move a little faster, turning the camera so I can tell. Uh-oh. We got some 5-point patches that are not in place because I made some new control points. Permit 5-point patches. So I'm going to add those. This will be the leg. I'm going to make another ring. Anyways, I did the same thing that I did with the arm. Basically what I'm doing, the way I think about it, is anywhere I see a crossroad, I see the potential for a protrusion. And the same is true for if you want to go inwards, like a mouth or an eye socket. I'm going to show you how to take this, all the work we did here on the left side, and move it over to the right side. So I'm going to grab these control points on the side and press delete. So hit W and select a control point along that spline, press Tab to find it, and then press K to cut it. Tab to find it, K to cut it. Now moving to the front camera with F2, we see there's one more spline. At the top, I'm going to grab a control point at the top, and then I'm going to hit Tab, and we're going to cut it. So now our object's ready to be mirrored. Control C, Control V might be something different in Japan. So I set the shortcut up myself. Model, flip on, and we're going to flip it all along the X plane, which is left and right from a forward-facing view. And then we're going to move it into place. We're going to hit Enter to release, and then we're going to press G to grab all the control points along the center of one of the two halves. I'm going to press E to extrude, and I'm going to pull out the extrusion so you can see it. I'm going to find the spline all the way around, and I'm going to just delete it, I guess, with the K. W, Tab, Tab. And in Animation Master, this is all automated for you. This is kind of an old-fashioned way of sewing an object together. Now we're going to connect all of these all the way across. So I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to connect them. Model has permit 5-point patch as an option. I'm just going to reduce it down by grabbing one of those mid splines and deleting them, and W to move them. And now we have a little doll shape. If we go up to File, we can save it, or we can actually go and export it as an Animation Master model. And as far as I know, this may be one of the only programs that has this button to export to MDL. But why don't we have a look at what this guy looks like in POV-Ray, which is the software companion to this software. And if we go over to our tabs on the right, we're going to add a new object. It'll be a patch object. And this patch object will be the ground. So I'm going to look at it from bird's eye view, pressing F1. Add spline across this way. I'm going to select this spline. I'm going to press E. I'm going to drag it down, pressing F4 to see a perspective view. Moving my camera up on the doll, I'm going to go over to my tabs on the top and I'm going to hit set. Over in the render settings, we're going to pick our version of persistence of vision ray. And then I have it set to, I think, the letter Q, or you can press the play button. Oop. There it is, rendered in POV with no background, just a gray sky. And it does that silly little jingle every time. So everything I've just showed you is how these images were produced by, this is an amateur artist just submitting things to the Internet Ray Trace competition. And these objects were modeled in hamaPatch and then rendered with the POV-Ray. So you get that kind of plasticky stretched material, and we got some nice columns back there. So yeah, if you want to do art that looks like this, do what I just did and hit render. You get stuff that can look like this. And it's a nice use of the Fong shader on the clown's makeup to kind of make it look different from the actual skin. This channel goes by 3DCG Music. They use hamaPatch to do some really interesting stuff. And it's just really cute. So you may be asking yourself, why make a model in Animation Master when I can use hamaPatch and then render it out in POV-Ray for that retro CGI look? And what you can't do in hamaPatch is actually animate your character very well. You can do all that rigging, like having the character's arms and fingers move and eyeballs and expressions in Animation Master, not to mention setting it all up in a scene and rendering it out to your desired format. Like we have here, the Genie from Microsoft was the very first Microsoft agent, and they chose Animation Master as their tool. And that also extends to the Merlin the Wizard. Animation Master stands alone as a creative pipeline. It wasn't designed to necessarily share with other software, and that's what makes it special, is its limitations and simplicity. So you as a creative don't get overwhelmed, and you can just start making things without thinking about, oh, how do I export this or import this? You're supposed to be able to learn this tool relatively easily and then set up a scene and animate it right away. So I'm going to just add a little shininess to the model we made in hamaPatch. Give it a kind of Fong hotspot there, and then let's give it some bones. So I'm going to go over to the bones feature of Animation Master, and then I'm going to add some bones by pressing A. We're just going to do a really simple puppet here. We're going to have one for the head. Yeah, we'll just do one for the arm. Now let's give it some legs, why not? Automatically assigned bones, and you can see we've already got these bones set up. Okay, and now I'm going to just drop it into a choreography, which is basically like the stage for your things, the play that you're going to animate. So I'm going to drag and drop our doll that we made in hamaPatch into the scene, and he's very small, so we're going to grow. And then I'm going to press 0 on the top of my keyboard to see the scene shaded. I'm going to hold down 2 on the top row of my number pad, and I'm going to click and drag our doll above the floor. Let's grab the skeleton and the skeletal mode here. I know I say skeleton funny, and make him wave. Hello. Hello. Oh, this is a classic move, the kick punch. Kick punch! Raise the arm to do a little Mega Man pose. You know the pose I mean. And say we wanted to add a little reflective quality to our character. Let's have a look at that. Very, very reflective to not so reflective. There's this sort of attitude online that I've encountered sometimes where if you have a small community, keep it secret. If it's a cool secret, you're like in a cool little club with your secret little conversation, and it's cool because it hasn't been diluted by normies. If there's something cool, I'd really rather share that with as many people as possible. And sort of my motivation for coming out and talking about Animation Master is that it is a neat little club. If I can make that interesting to people, that's a skill set that I've decided to develop, is making something that's interesting to me, interesting to y'all. Let's take a look at the software again. Now, just like in 3D Movie Maker, you have these pre-made actions, and everything in Animation Master works on the principle of if you think you can move it around like you would move it around in an operating system like Windows, you should be able to click, drag, drop a lot of features. So if we want to give Vector Man here a swagger pre-made animation, we can then see that in action. Animation Master has this thing called the libraries where you have your models, your actions, your materials. Throw that on the ground. There we go. We get some of that reflection off of Vector Man. Since I didn't show how to make a model in Animation Master, I'm going to speedrun making the character known as McZ. McZ is kind of the 3D Movie Maker mascot. So we're going to open up Animation Master and go over to the side project workspace. And I'm going to double click on object to start a new object. And this will be my model canvas from the front facing view of what I think McZ might kind of look like, a skinnier body type. And in Animation Master, you can just click away. It's a little more fluid than hamaPatch, but the same principles apply. I'm pressing A to add splines. I'm going to lathe that spline curve with Alt-L will make my shape appear. And then if I press 0 on the top row of numbers, I can see a shaded object. And I'm going to click on my model on the right-hand side, and it's going to pull up all these default properties for my model, including a default surface property. I'm going to change that color to something more McZ. And I like to add a little specular fong. And what that does is it helps me kind of define the shape, and it really makes the apple or the bowl of fruit pop. Now, McZ has a nose like that, a monster nose. I'm going to hit the letter A, and I'm just going to add splines around the nose hit there. And I missed landing on this spline, so I'm going to hit Y. I'm going to select the spline just by clicking on it, and I'm going to press Y to add a control point at the midpoint, and I'm going to attach it, connect the splines all the way around, bring these splines over. I'm going to select these splines by clicking on them, and I'm going to hit the letter K to cut them. I'm going to select that spline there. I'm going to hit the comma, and it'll select that spline ring, everything along that spline. And I'm going to hit E to extrude from a side view. And we're going to start working on McZ's face here. There is going to be more going on. I'm going to make room for another extrusions and protrusions. I'm going to kind of challenge myself to talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I'm going to grab this center spline, delete it, and then I'm going to cut the splines to make a hole, the spline ring around that hole, and I'm going to hit E to extrude it. Because what I want is that what's going to happen is going to turn into this lip shape. You're going to drag that back. And you can start to see a smile happen in there, little smiley guy. Things are getting kind of complicated to look at, mostly because I need to only be working on one half of this model. I'm going to delete half the model, and I'm going to cut these splines on the side, selecting them and then pressing K, because we're ready to only be working on one half. And I'm going to save it. See these empty gaps? You can select all 5 of the control points and press come down over here to the toolbar on the side of your screen and make a 5-point patch. I've made a shortcut, which is simply the 5 key on my keyboard, because I like to use 5-point patches a lot. That doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, but when you click drag select, it gives you the option more often than not. If you hit page up and page down, you can see the subdivisions done at a low subdivision. It looks like polygons, and then when you turn it up, it starts making the curve appear by pressing page up. Because essentially what it is, it's making these triangles or polygons, and when you turn up the subdivisions, you get a mesh behind the scenes in Animation Master, and we'll continue kind of taking the sculptor's approach. You've got a sort of Simpsons look to them. I'm going to supply more splines so that I can make more shapes. That's called a hook, which makes a dead end. It sort of handles minimalizing, because you're trying to do more with less when you're making a spline object. Too many splines will result in a kind of chaos that you can't control. I want this guy to say movie. I guess he'll be default kind of a resting smiling face. And notice how, as I sculpt with splines, when you see splines that are not relaxing, you relax them and sort of smooth them out, can help calm down your sculpt. A hole for the arms. We can do that trick that we did in hamaPatch of stretching out an arm, or we can just delete it, make this shape rounder. I'm going to hit the comma key to grab that spline ring. I'm going to go over to this drop down called bias. If you turn it down to 0, you're going to notice it shrinks right up. If you turn it up, 167 magnitude for the ins and outs of each of these Bezier curves is going to give you something that's closer to a perfect pi ring. Comma, and then I hit E to extrude it. We're going to continue that circular shape outwards. Like the back might come in like that shape, these kind of teardrop shapes. Select this middle section. I'm going to use the letter H for hide, which is something I do a lot, just so I can see a few select splines, grabbing them. And then there's 5. Pressing H again to show the model. Kind of finish making the shape on the bottom here. I'm going to select this spline, I'm going to move it over, select it again, and delete it. I'm going to try to make a ring here, because this will be where the legs begin. 67 to give it more mathematically satisfying roundness. Get the beginning of that shape. Now I'm going to try to add a hook by clicking and dragging, and when I'm over the spline, I'm going to right click. There's a healthy connection there. It's not going to create any weirdness when we try to render. Now I'm going to add enough extrusions for good arms for a puppet, but McZ is not very strong, so he's going to have little arms, but they're still going to have that teardrop action where Popeye's arms get big and then they get little down at the wrists. Pop it out for the bonage. So my fingers will end in a dot like that, and I'll just make a cartoony hand. We'll just see how it goes when I attempt to make it 3D. So this will be where the wrist is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just kind of prepping. I'm doing a two-dimensional version of what will be 3D. And the reason I'm offsetting everything is because it'll make this next part a little easier. It'll make a little more sense. Your hands and feet are like stars with the bones spreading outward. So I'm going to go to a tilted view. I'm going to hold down the number 2 on the top of my keyboard. I'm going to drag it upwards. I'm grabbing the splines at the bottom. Hold down the number 2, and I'm going to press 2, and I'm going to drag it, which is going to lock it to the up and down, or the Y, and you notice there are some potential patching issues here because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we can't do a 6 patch. We can do a 5 patch. So what I've learned to do with hands is break them down even more with additional splines in between. And now I can put in those 5-point patches. Grab the area that I want to get all patched up. I'm going to hit H, and I can see some of the patches here already that I want to make. So I'm going to make them. Just a reminder, this is a little bit advanced. If you're just gluing objects together, you can get away with much less work. Cool. Oops, we forgot the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4. These will be the bottom. So I'm going to hold down 2 and I'm going to drag down. And these will be the top. I'm going to grab them and I'm going to hold down 2 and I'm going to drag up. Hooking splines is a good way of eliminating the mess. So I'm going to select this entire ring here, and I'm going to press the L key to lock them because that's my shortcut for locking. So I can only grab these at the top and I'm moving them up. Let's just make that connect. Yeah, so hands are not for the faint of heart. But once you know what you're after, it makes sense. It's just, it always takes longer than I expect. Getting that star shape going. grab this spline ring, extrude, because what we want to do now is kind of delete every other connection. Drop it there. And this one looks like we can make it a hook. And then this one goes over the top. And this one, we can turn it into a hook. Hook. Boop, like that. There's McZ's hand. Isn't that crazy? Trader Joe's trail mix. Pressing E to extrude. And because there's only really 4 control points to mess with, I can really do some quick and loose modeling. Was that the calf that pops out and the shin? Give him a butt. Movie. I'm going to hit / and then I'm going to ask it to flip, copy, attach. I'm going to press K to cut that, adding a spline, and then just making sure it doesn't add it to the wrong spot. Right there. Now that we've centered McZ, we should be able to hit the mirror mode at the top, or the letter M, and you can see we can start messing with the expression. I'll drop the chin. And what's cool in Animation Master is making new expressions is very quick and easy. It's a face defined by these wires that when you bend them, making new shapes is like playing with putty in a very clean way. So making new expressions or mouth movements is so fun. Oh, it's so hard to not say movie. I'm going to join these, but I'm also going to delete them. I'm going to add I'm going to add a centered control point by pressing Y. Got a nose. Now that's looking way more like McZ. I imagine he gets pretty buff legs from pedaling that unicycle of his. Let's give him a little boost. Unicycle maxin'. No problem. We spent all that time making those hands, and sometimes McZ has these, he's just, you know, sporting no shoes at all. Let's just finish what I started with the hands and make them into his feet. Anyways. Oh no, what did I do? Gotta look out for that mirror mode. So hands are basically feet, right? Tarsals, metatarsals, carpals, metacarpals. So they kind of spread out like stars. Weird, but cool. Movie. Really cool though. Just give it the eyeballs. Burp. Repeat it. Okay, so what I've done, hopefully, is allowed for that. Speculars. So I'm going to turn on the specular color to white. Increase the size to white, to red. Oh man, there he is. Let's drop him in to a new choreography just to get a little more aura out of him. We can always grab those eyeballs. Whoa. Whoa. I think that'll do. I hope you enjoyed my movie. So now that I've shown you hamaPatch and Animation Master, I wanted to invite y'all to make a simple model in Animation Master or hamaPatch. You can get a trial for Animation Master at the website. I'm going to invite you to a creative jam. I'm going to call it Spline Jam. What it is just make a model file. You can save this file. You can save files in hamaPatch as a MDL and then submit it to the Discord, submit it to the website animationmaster.com, the forums there, to the jam by the end of the month. And we'll have your creative work displayed on my YouTube channel. And all you have to do is submit a character, an original character design in splines, and we'll get it rigged up and have it dancing for you in a YouTube video. Join us for Spline Jam 2026. Hope you are feeling inspired to create something and come out of lurk mode a little bit to share your work with us and your socials. Again, I'll be sharing those from this YouTube channel. Okay. Well, until next time, I'll see you in the future.